The contract hits the mahogany table at 6:47 a.m. $500 million in black ink and kanji characters. Caldren Holt doesn't flinch when the binder lands. He's done this dance before. The early meeting, the jet-lagged investors, the room that smells like leather and cologne expensive enough to buy a car. Manhattan's skyline bleeds orange through floor-to-ceiling windows. 46 floors up, the Hudson River looks like a gray ribbon someone forgot to iron. Holt adjusts his cufflinks. Italian, custom, the kind that whisper money without shouting it. Gentlemen, he says, voice smooth as the marble under his shoes. This partnership represents more than capital. It represents trust. Around the table, men in tailored suits nod. Lawyers flip pages they've already memorized. On a mounted screen, 3 Japanese executives sit perfectly still in a Tokyo boardroom, their faces unreadable as stone. The documents are thick, professional, stamped with seals that look important because they're supposed to. If you're watching this, you already know something's wrong. But would you have caught it before it was too late? Drop a comment if you think you'd spot a lie dressed in a $1,000 suit. Holt slides the contract toward the camera. Full transparency, he says. That's how I operate. Somewhere behind him, near the service cart loaded with coffee and Danish pastries, a girl stands with her back to the wall. 17, quiet, wearing shoes that don't quite match her borrowed blazer. No one looks at her. No one asks her name. She's just the housekeeper's daughter, here to pour water and disappear. But her eyes are moving across the pages stacked beside the coffee urn, and she's reading faster than anyone in the room. Aiko Rivera learned invisibility before she learned algebra. She learned it in kitchens where women spoke Spanish and exhaustion, and hallways where rich people walked past like she was furniture, in spaces where being seen meant being blamed. This morning, her mother Marisol woke her at 5. No school today, teacher conferences, but there's still work, always work. Stay quiet, Marisol said, tying her hair back with the efficiency of someone who's done it 10,000 times. Don't touch anything, don't speak unless spoken to. Aiko nodded. She's good at nodding. The office building smells like money, that clean, cold smell that comes from things being new and no one ever eating lunch at their desk. The elevator doesn't make sound. Even the air feels expensive. In the boardroom, Aiko sets down a tray of cups without clinking them. She learned that too, silence as a skill. Her mother moves like water, filling glasses, replacing napkins, erasing evidence that anyone needed help. Aiko follows her rhythm. Stay small, stay useful, stay gone. But while everyone watches Holt's hands gesture towards spreadsheets and growth projections, Aiko watches the documents, the ones in Japanese. She's not supposed to understand them. People like her aren't supposed to understand anything except which cleaning products don't leave streaks. Her father taught her different. A lawyer in a gray suit laughs at something Holt says. The sound is polite and hollow. On the screen, the Japanese executives remain still, their expressions carved from patience. Holt flips to page 42. Aiko's hand tightens on the edge of the cart. Her lips part, just slightly, like someone about to correct a mistake. Then she closes them. Not yet. Aiko's father died on a Tuesday. Heart attack in a hotel room in Osaka, 3 weeks before her 13th birthday. The Navy sent his things home in boxes that smelled like salt and old paper. Among his uniforms and books, Aiko found notebooks. Hundreds of pages in his handwriting, careful and slanted. English on the left, Japanese on the right. Grammar rules, legal terms, contract clauses. The language of people who need to be understood exactly, or people die. Marcus Rivera had been a linguist, not the kind who teaches college students, the kind who sits in rooms with admirals and foreign ministers, translating words that move warships and treaties. He told Aiko once, late at night when Marisol was working a double shift, "Language is power.
The people who control the words control the room. So he taught her. Not casually, not gently. Every evening after school, Aiko sat at their kitchen table while he drilled her. Hiragana, katakana, kanji for commerce, for liability, for obligation. The difference between giri and gimu. The way a single character changes who owes what. You think you know what a contract says? He asked once, tapping a document. Read it again in both languages. Then tell me who walks away richer. He made her translate news articles, business filings, loan agreements, things a 12-year-old should never care about. But Marcus knew something. He knew the world didn't protect people like them. People who cleaned offices and served food and fixed things for families who'd never remember their names. So you learn what they don't expect you to know, he said, and you stay ready. Aiko stayed ready. In the boardroom, Holt turns another page. The clause is buried under paragraphs of formal language, but Aiko sees it, clear as her father's handwriting. One character that doesn't belong. Caldren Holt built his fortune on a single skill, making people feel safe. Not actually keeping them safe, that's different, harder. Holt's talent was softer, the firm handshake, the measured voice, the story about his semester in Kyoto that he'd told at every dinner party. I lived abroad in my 20s, he'd say, pouring single malt scotch. Learned the culture, the language. Respect, that's the foundation of international business. People believed him because believing him was easier than checking. He dropped Japanese phrases at conferences, yoroshiku onegashimasu, genbatte, just enough to sound fluent to people who didn't speak a word. Enough to make investors trust the documents he placed in front of them. This morning, Holt wears confidence like cologne. He knows every person at this table, knows their portfolios, their weaknesses, the school their kids attend. Page 18, he says, flipping smoothly, you'll see the risk-sharing model favors long-term partnership over short-term extraction. That's the Japanese way, sustainable, honorable. The attorneys nod, the fund managers nod, even the intern in the corner nods. On the screen, the Tokyo executives remain unreadable. One of them, older, gray at the temples, leans forward slightly. His eyes scan the English summary. He doesn't look at the Japanese version. No one does. Why would they? Holt's team prepared everything. Professional translators, legal review, weeks of back and forth. Everyone's seen everyone's credentials. Trust was built months ago over dinners and golf courses and carefully orchestrated Zoom calls where everyone agreed before the meeting even started. That's how power works. Not through force, through the assumption that people at this level don't lie. Holt smiles. He's 3 signatures away from $500 million. 3 signatures away from a deal no one will question until the money's already moved. His hand rests on the contract, and that's when he makes his first mistake. He flips to the page Aiko's been staring at. Excuse me. The voice is small, polite, wrong. Wronged because it comes from the back of the room, where no one important stands. Wrong because it's young. Wrong because it's in Japanese. Fluent, formal, perfect Japanese. The room freezes. Holt's smile doesn't drop immediately. It hangs there, confused, like a portrait tilting on a wall. He turns. Everyone turns. Aiko stands beside the coffee cart, one hand still holding a glass carafe. Her face is calm, too calm for 17. That's not what it says, she continues, still in Japanese, still clear. Holt laughs. It's a short sound, sharp at the edges. Sweetheart, this is corporate language, very technical. You wouldn't. Page 42. Aiko's voice doesn't rise, doesn't shake. Clause 6, the liability transfer. A lawyer halfway down the table glances at his copy, flips pages. His forehead creases. Holt's smile is gone now. Marisol, he says, not looking at Aiko's mother. Please remove your daughter. This is a private. The English summary, Aiko continues, stepping forward, says risk is shared proportionally, but the Japanese version transfers all liability to the foreign partner, Zembu, all of it. On the screen, the older Japanese executive leans closer, his eyes narrow. Repeat that, he says, in Japanese. Aiko does, word for word, clause for clause, the legal terms rolling off her tongue like she wrote them herself. The room erupts in whispers. Phones come out, lawyers start flipping pages faster, comparing English to kanji, their faces shifting from confusion to something colder. Holt slams his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. She's a child. Then let her read the next section, the executive says. His voice is ice. Aiko turns the page. Article 9, she says quietly, arbitration rights. The English version says disputes go to international mediation. The Japanese version says the U.S. party retains unilateral withdrawal after capital injection. No mediation, no arbitration. Silence. Not the polite kind. The kind that comes right before everything collapses. Holt's face drains of color, and the executive in Tokyo says one sentence that stops every heart in the room. Get me our attorneys, now.
Security moves first. Two men in black suits step toward Aiko before Holt even finishes yelling. Their hands don't touch her yet, but the threat is clear. One more word and she's gone. Marisol's face goes pale. She reaches for her daughter's arm, mouth opening to apologize, to beg, to do whatever keeps them both employed. But Aiko doesn't move. She flips to page 63. Article 12, she says, louder now. Her voice cuts through the chaos like a blade through silk. Profit distribution. English version says 70-30 split. Japanese version says 90-10, with the 10% contingent on performance metrics that don't exist in the English contract. One of the lawyers drops his pen. On the screen, the Tokyo executive's jaw tightens. He says something in rapid Japanese to someone off camera. Aiko catches every word. So does the junior associate beside him. She's correct, the associate says in English, his voice shaking. The terms don't match. Holt's hand slams the table again. This is sabotage. She's been coached. Someone sent her here to read? Aiko's eyes meet his for the first time. No fear, no hesitation, just the cold clarity of someone who knows exactly what she's holding. You want me to stop reading? The room holds its breath. A fund manager 3 seats down closes his folder, slowly. The sound of paper against paper is deafening. How many deals, the Tokyo executive asks. He's not talking to Aiko. He's talking to Holt. How many times have you done this? Holt's mouth opens, closes. His lawyer leans in, whispering something urgent. But it's too late. Aiko turns to the next flagged section. Her father's training plays in her head like muscle memory. Find the lie, name it. Don't stop until the whole structure collapses. Page 71, she says quietly, termination clause. A woman at the end of the table stands up, just stands, doesn't say a word. She gathers her briefcase, her phone, her dignity, and walks toward the door. 2 others follow. Holt doesn't try to stop them because he's staring at the page Aiko just read, and he knows what comes next. The recess lasts 11 minutes. 11 minutes of Holt's lawyers forming a wall around him, their voices low and sharp. 11 minutes of phones lighting up like emergency flares. 11 minutes of Aiko standing in the corner while her mother grips her hand hard enough to hurt. "Why would you do that?" Marisol whispers. Her voice cracks at the edges. "Mija, why?" Aiko doesn't answer. She's watching the room fracture in real time. The Tokyo executives have muted their video feed, but their screens show frantic movement. Phones, laptops, someone pacing behind the camera. A paralegal rushes in with a tablet. She hands it to the lead attorney, who reads for 5 seconds before his face goes gray.
"We need independent verification," someone says. "We need to lock this down before—" Before what? The fund manager who left earlier is back, standing in the doorway with her arms crossed. "Before you realize a 17-year-old just saved us from a $500 million fraud?" Holt's lawyer steps forward. "That's a serious accusation. Miss Rivera may have misunderstood." "Let her read it again." The voice comes from Tokyo. The older executive is back on screen, his face carved from stone. "Every clause, out loud, to my translator." Silence. Aiko's mother squeezes her hand tighter. "Please," Marisol whispers, "just say you made a mistake. We'll leave. I didn't make a mistake." Aiko's voice is steady. Too steady. The kind of steady that comes from knowing you're right and there's no going back. A woman in a navy suit enters the room. She's holding a leather folder stamped with a government seal. Behind her, 2 more people in suits. Federal. The kind that don't smile. "Mr. Holt," the woman says, "will need copies of all documents, English and Japanese, before anyone leaves this building." Holt's face isn't pale anymore. It's blank, like a man watching his entire world collapse in slow motion. And then the first independent translator arrives. She opens the contract to page 42, reads for 30 seconds, and stops. The translator doesn't look up. She just reads the same section again, then a 3rd time. Her finger traces the characters like she's hoping they'll rearrange into something different. They don't. "This isn't a translation," she says finally. Her voice is flat, professional. The kind of flat that means she's seen bad things before, but never this bad. This is a completely different contract. The room doesn't explode. It implodes, quietly, efficiently, the way a building falls when the supports have been cut. Lawyers start photographing pages. The federal agents make calls. Someone mentions the SEC, someone else mentions fraud statutes. The words pattern and prior deals float through the air like smoke. On screen, Tokyo disconnects. No goodbye, no explanation. Just a black screen where 3 executives used to sit. Holt stands. He doesn't speak, doesn't defend himself, just stands there while his empire disassembles around him. The of Holt consolidated stock will be suspended. In 12 hours, federal prosecutors will file charges. But right now, in this The offer comes at 9 p.m. Marisol opens the door of their apartment in Queens to find 2 men in expensive suits. Not federal agents, not police. Worse, Holt's personal attorneys. They're polite, respectful. They ask to come inside like they're selling insurance, not carrying a briefcase full of consequences. Aiko sits at the kitchen table, homework spread out like nothing happened, like she didn't just burn down a billionaire's empire 8 hours ago. "Miss Rivera," the older attorney says, sitting across from her. He doesn't open the briefcase yet. "You're very talented, clearly gifted. That kind of skill deserves recognition. Marisol stands behind Aiko's chair. Her hand rests on her daughter's shoulder. "We'd like to offer a settlement," he continues, "a scholarship fund, full ride to any university, housing stipend for your mother, legal protections." He slides a folder across the table. "All you need to do is sign a statement. You'll say there was a misunderstanding, that you misread certain sections, that Mr. Holt acted in good faith." The number on the first page has 6 zeros. Marisol's hand tightens on Aiko's shoulder, not pushing, not pulling, just holding on. Aiko doesn't touch the folder. "I know what it said," she tells them. Her voice is quiet, calm, the same voice that read contracts in a boardroom full of men who thought she was furniture. And so do you. The attorney's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Miss Rivera, I don't think you understand the consequences of—" "I understand." Aiko stands. "My father taught me to read. He also taught me what happens when you let powerful people rewrite the truth." She walks to the door, opens it. "You should leave now." They do, but this isn't over. Caldren Holt never speaks to Aiko again. He doesn't get the chance. 3 weeks after the boardroom, federal marshals arrest him outside his Manhattan townhouse. The cameras catch everything: the handcuffs, the perp walk, the man who once lectured about honor and integrity folding himself into a government vehicle. The trial takes 9 months. By the time it ends, Holt's company is dissolved, his assets frozen. His name becomes shorthand for corporate fraud in every business school in America. Aiko doesn't attend, doesn't give interviews, doesn't write a book or start a podcast, or do any of the things people expect from someone who brought down a billionaire. She finishes high school, graduates with honors, accepts a scholarship, not from Holt's lawyers, but from a program for children of military families. She studies international law, not because she wants revenge, not because she's chasing fame, because someone has to watch the rooms where power makes promises it doesn't plan to keep. Marisol doesn't work as a housekeeper anymore. She manages a small community center in Queens now, helping immigrants navigate legal documents they can't read, teaching them the same lesson her daughter learned young: silence isn't safety. Years later, a law student will find a footnote in a federal case file. It won't mention headlines or viral videos or the girl who became a symbol. It will simply say, "Discrepancy identified by A. Rivera, unaffiliated minor, advanced linguistic proficiency." That's all. No drama, no ceremony, just the truth, written in permanent ink. Because the most dangerous lie ever told isn't complicated. It's simple. It's the one that says, "No one here will understand this," until someone does. And when that someone is a 17-year-old girl in borrowed shoes, standing in a room full of men who thought she was invisible, that's when empires fall. Not because of what was said, but because of what was read. Most dangerous move comes after everyone leaves.